this evening to talk about Saudi Arabia and Israel. It's a very interesting little story. It's an incomplete story. I'm not quite sure where the story is going, and I'm not sure if it's ever going to end and what the ending is going to be. But I'd like to introduce you to the story. I think this is fascinating because the Middle East used to be full of givens. We knew who were friends, who were enemies, and hardly anything changed. And this is an interesting perspective, particularly on the Saudi Arabia-Israel story, because if there was ever a country which wasn't going to make peace with Israel, etc., etc., it clearly, Saudi Arabia fitted into that category. Peace has yet to be made between the two countries. Theoretically, I believe they're notionally still at war. But there is movement here. Now, in these circumstances, there has evolved a curious opening, an awakening, so to speak, in relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel. In fact, there are no relations, but they are contacts, and the question is, are those contacts going to develop into relations? It's hard to actually figure out when these developments really started, but they clearly have to do with a shared perception that Iran is a threat to both countries, as well as to other Arab states in the Gulf, which have made similar tentative steps towards Israel. And it has, linked with this is, I think, a shared perception that these countries cannot rely on the United States in the way that they've relied on the United States in the past. It might just be that they can't rely on the Obama administration, but we will see how this develops once the Obama administration eventually departs in January next year. But since then there have been other meetings, and particularly noteworthy is one which took place under the auspices of my own institute, the Washington Institute for Near East Policy, in April this year in Washington at our annual fundraising dinner, where Turki al-Faisal, Prince Turki al-Faisal, his father had been King Faisal, a king who was assassinated in the early 70s. And he was in conversation moderated by my executive director, Rob Satloff. He was in conversation with Yaakov Amidror, who is a retired Israeli major general, and also who had served as a national security advisor for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for a couple of years. There's been another significant meeting about 4 weeks ago in Jerusalem, and this time another Saudi was involved, a man called Anwar Eshki, who is not a prince. He's also a retired military person. He had been a major general in the Saudi army. And he, a year ago, had met in Washington, D.C. at the Council on Foreign Relations, Dori Gold, who was just about to become at that point the Director General of the Israeli Foreign Ministry. And they announced that they had been in talks for going back several months, if not years. Fast forward to 4 weeks ago, and Anwar Eshki, who has gone to Ramallah on the West Bank to attend a wedding, drives to Jerusalem, or is driven to Jerusalem, and he has a cup of coffee in the King David Hotel, again with Dori Gold, this time who has been in post as Director General of the Israeli Foreign Ministry for a year. and what they discussed wasn't revealed, but Anwar Eshki also met the Israeli general who's in charge of relations with the Palestinian authorities, so something was going on. What I'm saying is those are the pieces of evidence to indicate something going on. Those pieces of public evidence. It still leaves us with many questions like what else is going on? Why are these things going on? Where's it going to lead? Can it lead to relations, even friendship?